Hey guys, it's Mickey again. Just so excited to have another guest with me today. Her name is Sharon Alexandra. She goes by Sharon, and she's become a new dear friend of mine who's been teaching me all about the de facto system and all about what it means to become a state national and how to make that transition into the new world. Now, of course, we don't need to make it a difficult transition. We can make this a nice, smooth, easy, loving transition, which is what I love about Sharon. So basically, she has apprenticed under David Straight, but she's come up with her own online program, which she calls the School of Natural Law. And basically, it's like a comprehensive online common law learning resource where she takes you through tutorials, holds our hand through what it means and what the process is in becoming a state national, and then what your new rights are when you live in that realm. So welcome to the channel, Sharon. Thanks so much for joining me.
Thanks, Mickey. This is so exciting. Yeah, becoming an American state national for me was the exclamation point at the end of the sentence. You know, we've all been going through this mass awakening over the past 2 years, very in extreme ways. And then before that, many of us were awakening and saying something doesn't feel right. What's going on here? So I became an American state national, which, if the viewers are new to this, or maybe they've heard it and they don't know a lot about it, I'm going to help you help to explain. I know you know what it is, Mickey, but just so that the viewers really get an idea of what it means to be an American state national. And firstly, don't believe the fake news, because they're trying to make it out like American state nationals are this radical group that's anti-government. I can assure you that that is not the case. I am not anti-government. I'm not anti-anything really, except anti-corruption and anti-lies. But I'm claiming my sovereignty as a state citizen or a state national, otherwise known as an American state national.
So tell us what made you decide to do this and when you made the transition, because I haven't yet. Like, I'm still, a lot of people are sitting here learning about it, understanding the process, and there's a lot to learn before we do it. What made you decide, and what, like, how long ago?
Yeah, so I'm a fairly new American state national, so less than a year for me. I kept hearing about it. And when I first heard it, I said, that's so radical. There is no way I would ever do anything like that. And it was just so outrageous. And my friend Clyde Cleveland, who you got to meet, who put on the Common Sense Summits, he was the one who told me about it. Mm-hmm. And we just had this long conversation, and he was the one who revealed this information to me. I said, oh, I don't know. It's just so out there. So then when I got back home to my county in Southern Oregon, I started hearing some locals talking about this. So it became kind of a buzzword in the community. And I was like, what is this? Mm-hmm. And so another friend nearby, another state national, he's like, hey, Ananda, that's my spiritual name. People call me Ananda, but my born name is Sharon. And he's like, hey, you really need to know about this. And I'm like, what is this? I'm like, I've heard of it before, but what is this? And I thought, I was really irritated when I first heard it because it was so outside the box. And I thought, oh, it's so irritating. What is this? And then I thought, no, I better listen to this guy. He's got some wisdom here. I need to listen. What's going on?
So this is important. I'm going to jump in there because we were talking about cognitive dissonance when we first started. And one thing that we do before we're ready to ascend into the next realm, into the next awareness, into the next level of freedom, is we go through a cognitive dissonance or a fear or a rejection, a denial. And there's often certain tests that we have to go through in order to enter into that new space or new awareness. What were you talking about earlier with the cognitive dissonance? And I'm saying this, even though most of my viewers probably don't have a lick of cognitive dissonance, because we're pretty we pretty much recognize ourselves as being the ones that are going to be a way shower. And what would you say to the people that, you know, again, with your process of cognitive dissonance and your process of deciding, no, I need to move forward with this. How did you?
Yeah. Well, I just burned through those emotions of irritation, recognizing that there's wisdom in front of me. And so rather than just dismiss what's coming to me, use critical thinking to keep an open mind. And a great master once told me an open mind equals a happy spirit. So I always try to keep an open mind. And so because I was irritated, I thought, oh, that's a sign that there might be some wisdom there for me. So that irritation can be a signal to us to look in and look deeper and like, wait a minute, there's something there because I'm kind of like uncomfortable or whatever that is. So, I'll sit with it in meditation and I'll contemplate, Christians call it contemplative prayer, where you sit and you listen. It's that deep inner listening. And I just knew I had that irritation, like, oh man, I know there's some wisdom here for me. So I started asking. And then Clyde Cleveland again turned me on to David Straight. He was like, hey, you need to listen to this man. He's very wise. And, I was like, okay, well, who is he? So I started watching videos. And when I first watched a David Straight video, my spine sat up very straight. And I recognized there was truth coming from this man and this wisdom that he was sharing. And so I thought, oh, gee, he lives so far away. I don't know how I would ever get an opportunity to meet him, but I'll just dive in. I'll do a deep dive into the videos and just learn as much as I can. And so lo and behold, some local folks put together a seminar right in my county. I said, you're kidding me. I said, God is great. So I went and I attended and I wholeheartedly opened my heart, like beginner's mind, like Aikido, you go in, beginner's mind, stay open. And so when I went in, one of the first things he said is, I want you to open your Bibles and read them as a trust indenture. He said, go to the book of Genesis. And I said, I got tingles through my body. I said, oh my God, this is what I've been waiting for my whole life, because I never thought to read the Bible as a law book. Mm-hmm. Nobody ever told me that. Mm-hmm. And so when I was a young girl, I was about 15 and a half, I had what I will call the voice of God. And it was a loud voice. And it said to me, go to the road of Genesis. And as a young girl growing up, or, preteen, teen, coming of age, I didn't know what that meant. So I was trying to read the Bible and I was reading it literally. And I wasn't very like religious or biblical. And so it was just confusing. And I was like, I don't know, this doesn't make sense. And then, so I was always searching throughout my life, what does this mean? What does this mean? And that day in that class, when I heard him say to read the Bible as a trust indenture, I knew. I went ding, 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 ding. This is what God was trying to tell me as a young woman. I
love that I'm going to give people some backstory really quick, just so they can understand how we met and why we're having this call today. Is so basically Sharon and I went down to Mar-a-Lago with Jim, and we were delivering the Declaration of Independence and the signatures to Trump at Mar-a-Lago, and we didn't get in, but we did set foot on the spiritual territory. We did a little Chinese fire drill out in front of Mar-a-Lago, didn't we? And
it was so fun.
Because we felt the fire drill would be fitting. But just for clarity, so we felt it was important for Trump to see that we, the people, declare and decree over our freedom, that we accept this divine intervention, that this is a tipping point moment. We recognize the tipping point moment, and we wanted to be there to declare and decree our trust, our jurisdiction over air with God. And that's what's been so traumatized. And it isn't until we started getting into these discussions about what air jurisdiction meant, land, air, and water, that I started realizing, oh my gosh, there has just been like a hijacking. And it's not like we can't have a direct connection with God, but it's been this like on paper contract versus covenant, that they have tricked us, just like the house of the Pharaoh tricked us into thinking that we didn't have pure jurisdiction over air. And so that's what, I was fascinated with all the stuff that Sharon was teaching me on the trip, but I just want to give everyone just a super summary on state nationalism. So basically, we didn't know this, but we were tricked into becoming citizens of the United States corporation. And as such, we basically put ourselves in a lower capacity, a lower standing with them legally in their de facto, which means fake system. Always correct me if I mess up a word, because I know we're learning.
No, you did great. Diction. De facto is without fact.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And so as a citizen, we were an employee of the corporation. Therefore, we were beholden of their bylaws, policies, think police officer, and state statutes and revised state statutes. So I kept asking when we got in the bond process, I'm like, who the hell are they? How are they just rewriting laws whenever they feel like it? Oh, I don't really want to be bonded anymore. Oh, here's another revised code. Here's a 2.0, 3.0, 4.0, 5.0. Let's just have fun. Well, this is how they're bypassing our Bill of Rights, is because in the Bill of Rights says that only we, the people, can make laws, that we must vote, right? On every law passed. They can't just go magically write a bill out of nowhere and do some closed door session, or maybe even open for 5 minutes and pass a bill. And then suddenly we're in a police state. No, thank you. Right. So all the questions that were coming into me were, oh, they've modified bonding in our state. And so no one's bonded. I'm like, actually, everyone's bonded. Because they pulled out basically a trust in our name when we were born under the corporation. So they created a trust, and inside that trust was a corporation, which is your straw man. And inside that trust were several bonds. They have been buying and selling us on the open markets and buying and selling our bonds and drawing from those bonds every time we borrowed money. So that is a big breach of trust. So that's why I bring up the word trust.
Big time.
So I just want to give everyone a backstory of how this is, because sometimes they need to know the benefit before they take in the information, right? So a lot of people will say to me,
true.
Well, if I'm not a citizen, I can't vote. And it's like, guys, were you ever voting for a corporation? Employees don't vote for a corporation. Trustees or shareholders or the board, they vote.
I have a theory on that too, that those Dominion voting machines. So I'm going to do just the David Straight teachings. He was my number one mentor, but I also have other mentors, Jack and Margie Flynn. I'm a big fan of Judge Dale. And, there's so much great wisdom. And this wisdom is not mine or Mickey's or David Straight's. Anybody can get this information.
This is for everyone.
This is for everyone.
And we ask that you take the transition with us. And if you're not ready, just watch, observe. Don't criticize. You're going to go through some emotions.
Right, exactly. I want to do a screen share with you. And let's see if that's the family name. Let's see, USA versus, here we go. Let's do a screen share. We're just going to break it down for people. We're going to make it so easy. Can you see that okay?
Yep, gotcha.
Great. Okay. So the first thing that I tell people is we are not we're not a democracy. Okay. We are a republic. And so things that are not alike, things that are different are not the same. Okay. Things that are different are not the same. So let's look at the differences between United States of America, which is our true republic, where we are free and self-sovereign beings, and we're not loyal to the crown of another country, right? We're free, we're self-governing, we're under God we trust. And then if you look over on the right column, you have United States Inc. Notice that it's in all capital letters. Why is it in capital letters? Because they're going to capitalize on us. Okay, it's all about capital. So if you look to the left, you've got USA. Under the corporation, you have US. Under USA, we are a free republic. Under US Inc., we're a democracy. Now, they've taken a lot of words and they've changed the meanings, or they've been sharing these words with us from the time we were born and growing up and getting us to believe that they mean certain things when in actuality, they don't mean exactly what we think they mean. So when I think of a democracy, I think of fairness. Wow, we're in a democracy. They need to uphold democracy. I've seen a lot of great patriots lately going, hey, they're trying to demolish democracy. And I'm like, we're not a democracy. Yeah. A democracy to me means mob rule. Okay, majority rule. It's mafia. This is not the way. So in a republic, you can be in alignment with truth. You can be the minority in the physical, but be the majority. You are the majority when you have truth on your side. That's why 1%, 3% can uphold the law. That's the power that we have as we the people, as we stand. So democracy does not mean fairness. And I grew up, I always calling myself a Democrat because I loved John F. Kennedy. And so I was like, I'm a Democrat. But no, I realized later, oh, wait a minute, we're a republic. So we're learning as we go. Under USA, we have constitutional law or common law. And under the US corporation, we're admiralty law or maritime law. Notice both those names have to do with the water because that's the water jurisdiction. Okay. And so breaking it down, God granted us dominion over the land, the air, and the water. And if you take the first letter of each of those words, it spells out law. Okay, the land, the air, and the water. Each one of those are said to be jurisdictions. Those are individual jurisdictions. Now, in the way they use the word jurisdiction, they mean it. When I say they, I'm usually talking about the corporation, corporate laws, or maritime law. So when they say jurisdiction, they're meaning venue. So when I think of jurisdiction, I'll think of like a municipality, like I live in the county of King, or I live in the state of Washington. And those would be jurisdictions, right? Your city of Seattle, right? Those are jurisdictions. But if we break down the word jurisdiction, juris means right law. And diction means words. So what right law words are you going to use in which jurisdiction? It's pretty fascinating. So,
and they try to manipulate us based on all their subsidiary companies and jurisdictions within companies, which was never true. That was them manipulating us under bylaws. So they had it like the Arizona state had every county as a subsidiary of, and then every town and city was a subsidiary of the county. And so you try to go to the attorney general and be like, oh, that's not my jurisdiction. You have to go to blah. And they just start just pushing you all around like you're a mouse on a, in a maze. Just, you gotta go over here, you gotta go over there. That's not my jurisdiction. That's not my jurisdiction. It's like, that's because that you don't work for that corporation. The word jurisdiction is not being used accurately.
That's right. And then, so it's pointing the finger, not my job, man. Not my job, man. That's why you're hitting dead ends everywhere you go in their jurisdiction, right? Yep. It's a maze. That's right. And it's all designed to confuse us, overwhelm us, deceive us so that we don't stand. We become apathetic. We're so worn out. Everybody's working for the weekend because they want us weakened. They want us weakened. And then if we're working for the weekend and we're in survival mode, when do we have time to sit in communion with God? Or source, right? We're depleted. It's depleting our energy. They're vampires. They're energy suckers. And it's like, hey, I'm not playing. Okay. That's about being an American state national where you're opting out. You're saying, hey, I'm not playing. I'm opting out. Thank you. Anyway, I know you assumed some things about me, but I'm correcting it on the record so that you can't assume these things about me anymore. I am self-governing, or child of God. I am. And I'm a living being. I'm a flesh and blood soul. And so you declare that. And our founding fathers, they gave us the Declaration of Independence. And as we declare and we state and we claim who we are, and this is what Jesus, Yeshua ben Joseph, spoke of, the I am. Yeah, that's what the founding fathers were upholding, was the I am principles. And we declare what we are. I am free. I am love. I am beauty. I am grace. I am good.
And I know we're bringing in multi-dimensions here.
Yes.
And it's because this is not woo-woo stuff, guys. When we take over the republic, when the republic is restored, and the people declare and decree themselves unto that republic, the laws will be literally dissolved overnight. You're going to be shocked at how much this changes. We're helping you with the transition from one government to the next. As one falls, the other is rising. From one legal system to the next. As the one unfair, unjust de facto system falls, the de jure, the rightful law, the lawful system will arise. And in that system, it is an otherworldly sort of experience for us because we've been so enslaved in the mind through diction.
That's right. That's right. And that's what I say, so legalese, one of my gifts and my, excuse me, one of my talents that I've had is translating legalese into layman's terms. I had the privilege to work for a company. I was helping people to get out of distressed properties. And during this time with that company, that's where I learned how to help these people that were in the perpetual contracts. They were in debt slavery and they could not get out of them. So our company found a legal loophole to help them to get out of these binding contracts that were in perpetuity. And by the grace of God, I realized that I could understand legalese and then translate it into layman's terms. So now, God's got a great sense of humor. So now as my life is unfolding, I'm realizing how handy that tool is in now teaching common law and constitutional law. And just a little bit of background, my father, he was assistant attorney general for the state of Washington. So I grew up in a law household and I actually had a desire to be an attorney, but something in me was stopping me and I didn't realize what. So I became a business broker. So, I'm very good in negotiations and contract law. And again, with the legalese. So legalese is like a foreign language and they don't want you to know it. Or if you do know a few words, they want you to use it. I'm sure you've heard this before, Mickey. What you say can and will be used against you in a court of law, right? Have you ever heard that, right?
Oh, yeah.
Well, that was on purpose and by design because they want us to use their law words so that we incriminate ourselves and we accidentally put ourselves under their jurisdiction. They want us to throw ourselves under their bus. But Mickey, you got it dialed in. And we know that the law is so simple that people can miss it. So what's going to happen in the coming days, you're going to see more and more common law is back. The Constitution has been dormant, but it is not dead. And if we don't use it today, it'll be gone tomorrow. And that's a quote from one of my most beloved teachers and mentors, Christo Hart. But it's true. It's true.
Exactly.
We got to wipe the dust off the Constitution. We're using it now and it's coming back. And people are going to be so relieved because it's easy. It's easy.
I want people to know one of the reasons I chose Sharon as my personal teacher on this is because she understands the de facto system, how to win in the old courts and how to win in the new courts. So we are definitely straddling. And she also provides assistance to people who are, so you can reach out to her and you'll help them, train them and coach them on what to say in order to present themselves. I'm actually changing the word from represent because we needed lawyers to represent us. Lawyers had given their oath to the Queen, the bar, the British Accreditation Registry. And now we're learning to present ourselves, knowing the words and knowing how to demystify the Pharaoh in his own court, just like Moses did.
This is so beautiful that you said that. Present. If you look at a breakdown of the word, you're present.
Yeah.
When we are present,
your gift.
We are in God's divine grace.
Yeah.
We are present. And so we can't be knocked off of our center. I call this lawful Aikido because we use the energies in a way to transform them. We're not against anything. We're just simply transforming. So as we're building, it's the birth of the new earth, and we're working together to create this new way, which is in a lot of ways the old way, which has been preserved. Thank God. We've been asleep, but we're awake now. We're listening. We're wide awake, and we're learning, and we're on the fast track to learn this stuff. And this law, this common law, constitutional law, it needs to be taught in every school across America. It's very simple. Little kids can learn this and know it. And it's basically, it boils down to two things. Do what you say you're going to do. Keep your promises, keep your agreements. And that is the basis of contract law. And number two, do no harm to other people or their property. So don't hurt anyone. Don't trespass against another. Or if you do, correct your error. Say you're sorry, go through that remorse, and then make amends. And hopefully you can offer something as a peace offering or, to make it go right, to ease the suffering that you put on another. And we've all been guilty from time to time of trespassing against another. So we've all been the victim and we've all been the perpetrator. So we have to own it. Now, this is very interesting. So Rights were never written into the Bible, but responsibilities were. So our founding fathers were teaching us that it is up to us to be responsible to know the law and to uphold the law. So we are duty bound to do this as blood-born Americans. And just going back to, you're born, and each state is seen as a little country. So when you say you're a state citizen or an American state national, you're loyal to your country. Now, your country is the state where you're born. So I'm a blood-born Washingtonian, right? So anyway, it's just, I could just kind of go down a little rabbit hole, but I want to just parlay back real quick, and let's just finish the two sides. So we have our USA, and then we have US Inc. So on the left, we have constitutional law. On the right, we have admiralty law. And I go over things a few times because the number of times over material equals certainty. So we're going to hear this stuff, and then we're going to hear it again. So Mickey and I were having this great conversation before we went live, and it was about you were asking me earlier about the cognitive dissonance. So it takes 21 times before that imprint is made on your brain, right? So they're pummeling us with propaganda of what they want us to think and believe. So firstly, with that cognitive dissonance, we have to delete the clutter. We have to unclutter. We have to unlearn that which we learned, all those lies. We have to just throw those out, clean slate. And then with an open mind, we consider new ideas. And as we're doing this, then we have to weigh it within ourselves. Does that feel true? And then we have to do our own research. So we are responsible beings and duty bound to be responsible, to learn the law, to know the law, to do our own research. I don't take Mickey's word for it. Nobody here should take my word for it. We don't take David Straight's word for it, right? We have to go and do our own research. So if there's something there that you hear as that doesn't sound right, look it up. And then come back, challenge me. Let's see.
Don't waste your time making a comment. Don't waste your time with the comments. Just look it up. Get it up.
And that's right, Mickey. And do I have wrong information? Correct me. Correct me if I have wrong information, because I need to know so I'm not spreading disinformation.
Yeah.
We all may have accidentally done that from time to time. It's okay. Clean slate, tabula rasa. And you start fresh and you forgive yourself and you forgive all others. And here we go. We keep going. And we're building this new earth, which is based in forgiveness and love and harmony. It's hard. It's hard to forgive someone when they've trespassed against you, but this is the way. It's an act of giving. It's an act of giving, forgiveness. What can we give? Not what can I get, right?
We've been pretty tolerant so far. So I think people are going to be pretty kind in this transition. We are definitely entering into a very peaceful transition.
That's right.
All right. So natural law and Roman law. So they were still following Roman law, huh?
Yeah. We've been following Roman law. And, you hear about all of the Vatican now. And then you could just look at the black robes that they wear at the Vatican and the black robes that they wear in the judicial system. And it's like, what's up with the black robes? Because they're playing in the sea of the dead. It's a corporation, which I love what Charlie Freak says. It's a corpse oration because it's a dead entity. That's why they use black ink and they wear black robes. It's creepy. The depths of this is so brutal. And for the cognitive dissonance for people, it's shocking. It's like, oh my God, how evil this whole system is. So,
really was. But if a judge can learn it, we can learn it. But so really quick,
right.
I have a guy or a video that was just sent around. It was in Canada. So I don't know. But they basically said, don't stand up when the judge walks in the room. And then they have to leave. The plaintiff is there, or sorry, the bailiff is there watching. And the bailiff, if he sees anyone not standing up, the judge has to go back into his chambers and change his robe and come back out because you have not recognized him as royalty over you.
Right. And that
act as royalty over you because that was a presumed position he was making because we stood up. So then they stayed sitting again, and he had to go back again and change the robe again. By the third time he came out, now it's under common law or something.
Wow. Okay. So so what he was attempting to do was change it from a de facto court into an Article 3 common law court. And so when you don't stand, so when we say to another, say an agent of the state, pulls you over and says, do you understand? A good answer, you got to be careful with this, because if you challenge one of their policy enforcers, I like that you said that earlier, their police or policy enforcers, when you challenge them, it can piss them off. And depending if they're egomaniacs, they can really harass you and bully you and put you under false arrest and all sorts of things. So we don't want that. But really, we stand under no one. I don't understand. I comprehend what you're saying, but I don't stand under another man or woman. I stand under God and God alone.
But
if you say that, you'll sound like a kook to an agent of the state. What do you mean you stand under God? Like, oh, loop-de-loop. And it's like, well, I don't stand under another man or woman. Sorry. Yeah. So I'm sorry it's so esoteric for you, but that's how it is.
Yeah.
And we're here. The light is here. God is here on the planet, and we are healing. And we're just, I say this to everyone. I'm like, the head of the monster has been cut off, but now we're dealing with the flailing arms. Yeah. And these flailing arms are the masses who have been conditioned to believe that it was this other way. So now, as we wake the sleeping bear, as those who are awake wake the others, the first emotion that comes up when they're fast asleep is they're pissed off. And now we've got a bunch of angry, pissed off people. And when people are pissed off, they do crazy things. So we're going to be dealing with a lot of craziness. But after that cover emotion of anger, then comes the sadness, the deep sorrow, the betrayal after trust. And we're all going through that. And we can weep together, and we can hold each other's hair while we vomit through the shock, because that's what's happening. And we're just, hey, we're all in the same slave boat. Nobody's above anybody. Nobody's below anyone. We're learning together, and we're each at different stages on the path. So we can have compassion along the way and just try not to engage in fight. If you're dealing with the crazy person who's just waking up or refuses to wake up, just, say a blessing, try to stay in your lane.
Be gentle. I know no one's above or below anyone, but for those of us who have been through the process of awakening, and it's night and day to us, it's good versus evil to us. We have to be sort of parental, like loving to the people, even if they're having a tantrum. Like, it's hard to be loving to your 2-year-old when they're having a tantrum, but you do.
That's right.
You need to be loving and just know you have a totally and completely different perspective than they do right now. And so you have to guide them through it, even an angry police officer.
Oh, big time, and that will test us, because when we're provoked, I call it the collective narcissist. And when we're provoked, anything that they do in corporate is an offer. Anything they do. So when they send you a fine from OSHA, or they want you to renew your license, or you get pulled over and they're getting you to admit that maybe you were speeding and give you a ticket, that's an offer. And so we don't have to accept their offer. We can say offer declined. No, thank you. I'm not participating. But when you're doing that, they have no idea. This is so new to people. So many people haven't heard of this, and a lot of people in law enforcement haven't even heard of this. So just be careful, because we're sharing information. We want to educate, but people get offended when you go to educate them. So it's like, hey, I learned this thing. I'm just sharing this. I'm not trying to make you wrong. And we have to know that when that offer to participate in their game, if we decline it, they can see that as us fighting back, as us being anti-law or anti-government.
Absolutely. So let's talk about the next one then. So God's law and corporate law. This is one that, they throw at us all the time. How many times when you wanted to go to a movie theater, you wanted to go somewhere, and they said, no, you have to wear your mask because it's our company policy. It's like, I don't care what your company says. You're in violation of my right to breathe.
Right.
So how do we as, let's say, state nationals overcome some employee, which I don't want to shoot the messenger, but at the same time, we got to wake up every employee and let them know, no, you don't have jurisdiction over me because your company has some policy about me breathing.
Right. Exactly. And it's okay to stand, and it's okay to tough love and be firm. And even in some court cases, Supreme Court cases, the judge has given accolades to the one who was belligerent. Now, I'm not saying to go out and be belligerent, because people are edgy right now. Mm-hmm. However, sometimes it's important and necessary, but belligerent in standing in your center. If you're reactive, you've fallen off of your center. If you're making an action to stand your ground, that's different.
Okay.
And you can do that. And we can call out the criminals, and we can call out the employees who don't know, who are just following policy. And what you're doing right now with the bonds for the win and those affidavits, those notices, that's what we do to those employees or business owners.
Okay.
We call
So
them
now I
out.
want to go into that, because I don't think the people
Yeah.
are watching, because I'm just learning this stuff as I go.
Mhm.
In
Yeah.
the new system,
Yes.
in the new system, that we are our direct relationship, man to man, woman to woman. And if you
Mhm.
tread on me, I don't care what employee you are, I don't care who you work for, I don't care what you say,
Mhm.
you violated my rights. So therefore, I can literally give that. And I'm not saying anyone do this. The reason that Sharon is taking the time to explain how gentle we have to be is because really the power is all going to go back to the people who are being treaded on. I don't know that are trespassed on.
Yeah,
They're
absolutely.
trespassing on your breath. I mean,
That's
literally
right.
all the way down to your breath and your voice and your jurisdiction over air. So,
Yeah.
In the new system, we talk a lot about bonds. In the old system, you have to send a FOIA request, and then you have to send a letter of intent, and you got to do this affidavit process. In the future, the process is, here's my letter of notice. So I'm putting you on notice. You're taking away my air. And I'm going to use this as an example, guys. I know everyone's going to go, oh my gosh, that's so abrupt. It is abrupt, but people are going to learn real quick. There's a new law. It's as if we've had 2-year-olds that grew up to be 10-year-olds, and now we're setting the rules of the house.
That's it. You're such a natural, because of this mama love. It can be tough. The sternness of a mother can be more devastating than that of a stern father.
Yes.
It is so devastating when mom's angry. When mom's angry, it's like, oh no, mom doesn't love me.
Matter of fact, no, this is how it's going to be. And so this is how we create a new world and a new illusion of a world, because we do. It's what we believe in, our assumptions we make. So we literally give that teller at the movie theater, here's my notice. You know what I mean? And it makes them push back on employment, right? Because they're saying to their employers, wait, you just asked me to break the law. You asked me to violate someone else's jurisdiction over air. And so they would then choose to stay at this job or not after being received this notice. If they stay there and they continue to enforce and they continue to violate your rights, you can then send them an affidavit, which is a letter. It is it's a sworn testimony, a letter of explanation of what just went down, along with any proof, or evidence. And then you literally send them a bill. It's a notice of claim. And in that notice of claim, you tell them how much they owe you for this.
That's right.
That's
right. And that's
basically called a redress of grievances.
That's the redress of grievances. How beautiful too. And that's what they do to us. They send us fines. They make up crimes. They do things. Now ours are legitimate. We're not just making things up. Like, a shout out to Randy, the barber in Northern California. God love this man. He's been harassed for barbering without a cosmetology license. This man is a true lover of freedom, and he has been standing, and they're trying to chew him up and spit him out, but he's still standing, and his businesses are still open because that's his right. These are our rights. Yeah. This is such a beautiful thing. And I love it, because it's this mama love, but it's bottoms up government. So we're going, me, a woman, to another man or woman, and saying, hey, I'm calling you out. And that's tough when you've been perpetrated against, to go to the one who has perpetrated against you and say, hey, this is not okay. So we got to get over that, being bullied, being victimized, being oppressed, and rise and say, no, this is not right. This is not okay. And you can bring a support friend with you. We can bring a posse with you. Yeah. It's okay. And if you are shaking and you don't have the courage, or maybe you're old and frail, you can do it administratively, right?
All through the
you don't need to let them know where you live. Make up a post office box, or, set yourself up so that they don't have to know where your private address is if you're feeling afraid or threatened. And then you also have to weigh it within yourself. If you feel like it's going to be your life or standing for your rights, choose your life.
Choose your life. We have to start somewhere. A lot of people will tell me, well, you're shooting the messenger. It's like, well, Corporate law,
No.
look on the screen, guys. Corporate
Right.
law is going away. There was never any such thing. We're moving on to God's law, and we're moving into, if I don't stand up for my area jurisdiction anytime, they will start to encroach on it. If I don't declare and decree I am in control of my area jurisdiction. And so, yes, putting pressure on the lower levels is one of the best ways to dismantle the corporate structure. So what you do is you put the pressure on, let's say, for example, the districts. So we were disarming the districts by putting them back on their heels, saying, look, you're actually in violation of our rights. It's not the other way around. Stop what you're doing. And then they start putting pressure on each other because they're all on the boards. And then they start putting pressure upstream to the State Board of Education, and then further upstream to the Biden administration. So we have to realize that every time we declare and decree over our jurisdiction, and our freedoms and our rights, we are actually creating change every time in every capacity.
It's so true. That bottoms up government. So the waves are turning. Now the tides are turning. We're going back in the other direction. It's like, oh no, enough is enough. And now we're going like this. And it's gentle. It's not mean. I mean, we're just the only people who have issue with calling out a criminal is a criminal.
Right.
I'm sorry.
Imagine if we the people. Yeah. If all of we the people put everyone on notice right now, every doctor, every pharmacist, every scientist, everyone, and said, look, no more. Here's our notice. We see you. We see what you're doing. Stop, cease and desist. And it's going to be really hard on people because their entire identity is wrapped up in being, let's say, a lawyer or being a doctor. It's like
their
people that are really going to resist this, like hardcore.
Their careers, their identity, they're identifying as that which they studied. I don't even call it an education system anymore. I call it an indoctrination system. Wow. So these people who boast, I have 20 years in the medical field. And it's like, well, vitamin C and sunlight sounds like a good immune booster to me.
Right.
Like, you don't need to be educated to be smart.
Yeah.
I call it indoctrination. And so, and that there's ego attachment to that, a level of education or level of life experience and expertise. And it's like, I'm not trying to be a dick. I'm not trying to be insulting, but I can see some things. So doctors get very insulted when you go in and you say, hey, I want to use some natural remedies or whatever. And they, I've been doing, my medical background. It's just like, oh, brother.
You know what I say to those people, just so everyone knows what I say to those people is, and how many of you healed in those 20 years? Or how many of you kept sick? Because if you're not a healer, then you're not qualified.
That's right.
Well, so free people versus majority rule. So was it even ever majority rule? Wasn't that all an illusion anyway?
Yeah. So yeah, exactly. It was an illusion because we bought into it. Sovereign nation, mob rule, majority rule, self-governing, mafia. It's mafia. I know what I was going to say. So common law. Common law is synonymous with constitutional law. However, they've stolen that word too. And they say common law means that it's common to most people. And that's not what common law means. It doesn't mean majority rule. Common law means we're common in our hearts, in our unalienable rights that were granted to us by God. That's where we're common. And we're not common because a whole bunch of people agree on the same thing. If a whole bunch of people agree on a lie or agree on harassing and offending and trespassing against another, it doesn't make it lawful. Okay. So they use common law in a way that is nefarious to dupe us, to make us think, well, it's common law.
Yeah. And I also want to mention here, so mafia, this is interesting. So the new, I'll call them assemblies for now, but the new republic, the restored republic, that's people are forming assemblies. Yes. And they're becoming self-governing within those assemblies. Now we're currently vetting those out because I know there's been infiltration. So everyone bear with us. Yes. We will come forward with that soon. But the self-governing are going to have militias. Now militias are actually peacekeepers. And I didn't know any of this. This sounded so, oh my gosh,
Right?
militia, mafia.
Doesn't it
triggering
sound,
me.
it sounds like, oh my God, I'm doing something wrong.
Militia. Oh my gosh.
That's
Militia.
so,
Well,
yeah.
militia comes from the root word that military was also coming from. And militias were always originally formed under the Constitution to protect domestic terror, not foreign, not necessarily foreign. So we are establishing a new form of self-governing militia or military. And in those assemblies, they're also forming, what are they called? They're called juries, grand juries.
Mm-hmm.
And so the grand juries consist of people, real people to hear your case, right?
Yeah. A trial of jury by your peers. Who are your peers? Your peers are your neighbors, your friends, your work colleagues, the folks that you do business with. Those are your peers. So when a judge appoints the jury, that's a jury trial. And a trial by jury is the de jure court or the common law court. So again, when you think you have a jury trial that you might have fairness, no, the judge is appointing. They're appointing. They're doing a psychological profiling to get the right one, so they can get a predetermined outcome. So it's all rigged, man. It's big scamorama.
Yeah. So, okay. So let's just summarize that. So in the de facto system, you had a jury of, let's say, I don't know, 10, but they were decided on by the lawyers first and the judge. So they basically filtered out just the people that they felt were going to rule in their favor.
That's
versus
right.
The self-governing assemblies, which are forming grand juries. So think of a grand jury as being just common people, and they're picking and choosing based on their votes, right? So the larger the assembly, whatever. And so talk to me about what this new court looks like. What on earth? Going, how do I make sure I get my redress of grievances?
Again. So yeah. So we're building right now. It's sort of like a parallel. It's the bizarro world. Totally. Yeah, the prophet, the seer, the great seer, Kim Clements, who I know you know about. He's amazing. But Clement, pardon.
Yeah.
He prophesies, what is this? Two governments I see. What is this? Two presidents. He's like, no, this can't be. What is this? So it's kind of the bizarro world where we're having two worlds right next to each other, these parallel universes that will exist next to each other as we're building the new earth. So assemblies, I haven't done the deep dive yet into the assemblies. I've definitely had a lot of people calling me, wanting me to join and be a part of it. But I'm just right now, I'm just kind of staying in my lane, and I'm just learning as I go. And I'm watching and I'm learning.
You can help in the de facto and in the de jure. So this is what's great about what you're doing. And also you're helping.
Thank you. Yeah. Because God forbid you ever get taken in shackles. You need to know how to stand. You need to know how to speak. And because a lot of the corporate government doesn't know this stuff yet, they're going to see us as like radical, or, the woman up in Washington who brought the Ryder truck up with the 60,000 affidavits, they're calling that paper terrorism.
Oh, yeah.
That's what they do to us. That's straight from the Marxist playbook. Accuse others of that which you're doing. They have been paper terrorizing the people forever with tickets and fines and unlawful this, and fill out this form, and you need a license to do this, and you need a license to do that. No, they've been performing paper terrorism against the people. And now that we are standing, they've never seen anything like this before, and they're calling it paper terrorism. We're like this giant mirror, and we're holding up to them that which they are. They are what they're accusing us of.
So I did an interview with Emily and Brianna from that group in Washington. And I'd asked her, do you have any state nationals in that group? And she was probably more leaning towards starting this big class action lawsuit with all the 60,000 together. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, no, we need this quantum shift. We need to hit them from every angle. We can't have one lawyer, or one lawyer representing the class action suit for we the people. That's and 10 lawyers for them and their corporation because they just have unlimited money that they've stolen from us. No, we should have actual people that have declared their sovereignty and they've stepped out of the citizenry and they are actual, state nationals who can put that redress of grievances upon them. Imagine
That's right.
1,000 letters of redress of grievance. Imagine that, you guys. This is a quantum shift. This is the many rising up against the few.
That's it. And it's case by case. Each case will be heard. Each grievance will be heard and addressed. This is our time, and this has been written, this has been prophesied, and each voice will be heard because it's time. It's time. And every voice matters, and all lives matter, every single one of us. And so, yeah, write your letter of complaint, send it off to the one who's trespassed against you, because we're going to get through this. And every voice will be heard. I really feel that in my heart and soul. And I'm seeing it now more and more. And especially, and that's where I was born. I was born in Olympia, Washington, right where she delivered that. And I said, God, it's great. We have this light grid of meditators and light workers, and we're all over the world. And we're holding this high vibration of love and putting peace to all people of all the earth. And this common law, it can be used in any country.
Really?
And yeah, why not? Because we're born under God. We're born under God. We're not born under some made up rule. I love it. David Straight calls it SMU, shit made up. They're just making it up.
Right. I mean, so again, everyone needs to know. So de facto means false. And what was it? It was legal. The word is legal. But in the de jure system, it means truth. And the word is lawful.
Well, as far as I understand, yes. And of the day, I always think of soup of the day, du jour. Yeah. But in legal, in one of our research, we found, and I can't remember what year or what edition it was the Britannica Encyclopedia for Arts and Sciences, and I forget what year and what edition, where it literally has the definition of legal as undoing God's law. Literally says undoing God's law.
Wow.
So this is Satan's language. Legalese is trickery, witchcraft, spell casting. They're black robes, they're sea of the dead. People don't really get it. They think when I say this that it's outrageous. And I'm telling you, no, it is not. So Freemasonry existed 4,000 years before Jesus, Yeshua ben Joseph, walked the earth. So when he was living during that time, he was calling them out. He was seen as a political agitator, and they were really upset with him. Remember, he turned over the table because they were engaging in commerce inside the temple. And he was like, no, this is not okay. He was angry. So because he was a threat to the system, they thought that they could kill the flesh and blood man, but they couldn't kill the light of God. And now here we are, we're light warriors. We're all here and we're all shining bright right now. And we're all standing in this. And I have a theory that that's what was meant when it was said that he was walking on water. He was walking on their water jurisdiction, and he's on the land, solid ground, good foundation, which was above the water. So he was walking on solid ground and walking under God's law. So the air, the land, the air, and the water. Air being trust law, which is the highest law. But we have to climb. We have to climb the stairs, the stairway to heaven, right? Okay, so this is so cool. So when you come out of the, here, let me go back. Let me go back to Genesis and where God granted us dominion over the land, the air, and the water. I ask, wouldn't it be a good idea to learn about those different jurisdictions? Once we have mastery over those jurisdictions, we'll be able to have true dominion over the land, the air, and the water, right? True dominion, where we transform this into a planet of love, harmony, peace on earth, balance with Mother Nature, and goodness and sharing, a celebration. I mean, the Jubilee, it's coming. We're building it. I see people hugging, dancing, celebrating, helping one another, uplifting one another, and people healthy and thriving because they're not being sprayed with chemicals anymore.
Right.
and being dumbed down through a horrible indoctrination system. This is exciting times. So,
Very.
but sadly, we have to go through and learn all the lies that we were told so that we can just kind of untangle the web that they created in our brains and our minds.
Absolutely. So let's try to finish up these, and then we'll do another session where we go
I love it.
and talk about more things that sound the same that are different.
Right. I love it. Okay. So we're self-governing, we're free people. They're about mafioso. We know what they're capable of and what they do. They don't like you going along to get along. They have ways to make you go along. Okay. Land jurisdiction, solid ground. Water jurisdiction, flimsy, ever-changing, could hit choppy waters at any time. Declaration of Independence, that's our I am. We get to declare who we are and what we stand for. And of course, in the corporate world, they're loyal to the crown. They're not loyal to America or the free people who live here. We have rights. And in the corporate world, there are privileges, and where we ask another if to grant us a privilege for something that we already have the right to do. We have the right to breathe. We don't go and ask permission to breathe. We breathe. We don't ask permission. We just do, because we're free people. And they hate that. They're so intimidated by free thought. And I just giggle because that's where God exists. That's where God exists.
So true. So true. Well, this has been amazing. Thank you so much, Sharon, for
Thank you.
We'll do this in a multi-part series.
I love it.
In the meantime, I'll provide your link below for the people to start taking
Thank
your
you.
courses, so they can understand the specific steps you need to take in order to become a state national, and the specific pros and cons, right? Everyone needs to know the pros and cons. And anytime you lay out pros and cons of either remaining a citizen or becoming a state national, you'll be shocked. But part of it is having to dismantle the illusion. So just really quick on that, big question I have, and I have put this out to Bobby Lawrence and to David Straight. I don't know. And I'm just telling the people to research this. I have a feeling that we all became Americans as soon as they dissolved that corporation, the United States Inc. Corporation. So we might not have to go through all the steps.
That's right.
That's
right.
Karen had to go through, but we're learning and we don't know. And so it's time for all of us to become active participants in our new realm.
Yeah, this is true. And it's not for everyone. So, alerting the corporation to the fact of the matter, it seems ludicrous. Like, why should I have to go and say out loud, I'm an American, I'm a free woman? I already am. I'm a blood-born American. It's like,
but there are two types of Americans. There's those who know they're slaves and those who don't know they're slaves.
Right. And so when you alert it to them, you're getting it on the record, and then you can have it reflected on your passport, which you are seen even in their jurisdiction. You'll have limited diplomatic immunity, which can be very, very helpful. So you can avoid being harassed, falsely detained, tickets, things of this nature. So while we're still dealing with the flailing arms, this might still be a necessary step for many coming down. And you just have to feel if it feels right in your heart and soul, if it's important for you to do or not do. But, like Jack and Margie Flynn, who are two of my beloved mentors, I love them so much. They didn't become American state nationals because they knew the Constitution like the back of their hand. They knew the Bill of Rights. They knew the amendments. They knew the dates. They knew the treaties. That can be overwhelming and intimidating. And so this is kind of a safety net that you can have and just say, hey, I'm an American state national, and call it a day. Because, we might not all have the capacity to go and be able to stand in front of a judge or a magistrate. So this is that little safety net that you can have to show, hey, I'm not part of your jurisdiction on the record. Leave me alone.
And they are trying right now to pass bills in California that would put them back in a police state where the police officers can literally chase you down and jab you. So we need to be really giving people the truth and the knowledge that if you become a state national in California, you can literally be telling that officer in the moment that this is, that they are currently going to be held accountable, personally accountable, not their boss, not their corporation, not anybody else. They are personally accountable for their grievance upon you. And it isn't going to be until we have a few people standing up to these guys and making an example. So if you feel like you're spiritually ordained and you feel like this is your time to be a way shower, to step out in the light and illuminate this topic, by all means. I think if any state has some urgency, it's California.
I agree. And because they're trying to go full-fledged Australia style there, and the police state is warring against the people. And make no mistake, this is happening. And it is my feeling in my heart and soul that being an American state national could possibly be your only ticket to freedom, to not end up in a health camp. So we when you have diplomatic immunity and you do not fall under their jurisdiction, and guess who else recognizes that? The UN. The UN recognizes diplomatic immunity. They recognized American state nationals. So it's important to protect yourself, protect your families. And I mean, I can't speak highly enough about it because we're dealing with these flailing arms. Yeah, the house of cards is falling, but why take a chance? So I'm thinking for the next couple of years, we're probably going to see more and more American state nationals coming forward. And then gradually it will start falling away because we're building the new republic for the United States of America.
I also just want to say it's a very strong tactic. Okay, we're talking tactical efforts in order to stop this police state. Send a notice to every single police officer, every priest. I mean, most of these people, at least it was this way when they took over Nazi Germany, they brought in the Antifa, they bullied out the cops by defunding them, and then they replaced the cops that left with Antifa. They were called brown shirts, and now they were dressed as police officers. So a lot of these individuals are getting paid to come and essentially violate your rights and put you in a state of fear. So
that's right.
We do not come up with methodologies to put these people back on their heels and say, no. And no, I'm not going to go through all the bells and whistles of trying to pull your bond. I have a redress of grievances as a state national.
Yeah. Yeah. You want that reflected on your ID. I mean, I'm seeing the importance of it more and more, even though I know people who have been able to kind of skirt around it and speak constitutional law or common law or trust law when they go into a courtroom, and they're able to stand, they're able to avoid fines and false imprisonment and all this. But the American state national status is the only thing that I feel in my heart right now that is going to be really recognized by those who are the participants of the other. It's just sad that we're getting to that point, but there's nowhere to run. There's no free country to run to.
Yeah.
This is it. We stand or we're going down.
Yeah.
So I'm standing.
Ditto. Well, Sharon, it was such a pleasure having you on today.
Thank you
so
Mickey.
Much for joining me and for being one of my teachers.
Thank you. You're my teacher too. That's what we are for each other. Thank you.
I love it. Okay. We'll talk soon.
Talk soon. Bye.
Bye.